guys, this is H.A.T, and I'm coming to you with a brand new deck profile today. And today, before I get into it, I just want to quickly thank my friend Eddie for submitting this deck to me. This is his deck. It is Monarchs, Artifact Monarchs, and it's actually a really interesting type of deck. Allows him to really play anti-extra deck, anti-pendulum without actually having to play the field spell, and then also makes people really afraid to play anything that's like back row destruction. So it actually has a decent matchup against Cosmos, specifically things like Slip Riders, problem cards like Slip Rider, or problem cards like Twin Twister, which can be a bit of a problem for Monarchs. Typically, if you're not playing the FTK build, then Twin Twister can sometimes be a bit of a problem for the deck. So Artifact Sanctum is definitely very, very useful for that as well. So like in the case that gets popped. So let's get into the deck. First, he's playing 3 Aether, the Heavenly Monarch, 2 Erebus, the Underworld Monarch, 1 Caius, the Mega Monarch for the level 6 Monarchs, 3 Karaz. Karaz is just really, really good. Double Adea and double Eidos. He just really enjoys, not really enjoys, he just likes this ratio at the moment. May or may not change. 2 Artifact Scythe. As I said, this is really an anti-extra deck, so Scythe really helps with that. And of course, 1 Artifact Moral Talk, because Moral Talk's just in general pretty good. 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, because it's a pretty decent hand trap. It's also Tuner, which is pretty interesting. Allows him to go into these guys down here, and I'll explain those when I get to them. For the spells, 3 Pantheism, 3 Tenacity, 3 Monarch Stormforth. That's pretty standard for a Monarch deck. And then 1 Return of the Monarchs. He's also playing 2 Instant Fusion. He's 2 targets down here, and I'll explain those when I get to them. 2 Twin Twister, 3 Artifact Sanctum, double Call the Haunted to get back the artifacts and whatnot, 2 the Prime Monarch, and then 1 Escalation of the Monarch so he can tribute on his opponent's turn, which is actually pretty useful because he can summon out the Artifact Sites and Moral Talks on his opponent's turn. Specifically, he'll probably want to go for the Sites more often. Just simply so he can lock his opponent out of using the extra deck and then tribute over it, which is actually pretty nifty. For the extra deck, 3 Psyframe Lord Omega, 1 Stardust Dragon for the Synchros for fusions in essentially instant fusion targets, 1 Elder Entity Norden, 1 El Shaddai Winda. Winda can be summoned through instant fusion. I did look up the ruling on this as well, and he did also explain to me that it is legal, that you can do that. The one backdraw, obviously, is that you can't special summon it from the graveyard after that happens. But nonetheless, it's a level 5 monster. It's one of the fusion monsters that can be summoned by instant fusion, so why not use it? For the rank 5s, 1 Magnaliger, because it deals with the big super quantal guy. 1 Constellar Pleiades, 1 Volcasaurus, 1 Ptolemy M7, 1 Gaia Dragon. And then for his more interesting choices, Hope Harbinger Dragon, 1 Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder, 1 Pain Gainer, and 1 Seven Sins. So he really took advantage of the gold set dropping tomorrow. Probably has these cards on pre-order as well, or if he hasn't gotten them already. So these are pretty interesting, especially Hope Harbinger. He's essentially, Hope Harbinger is the Naturi beast of the deck. If you don't know what he does, once returned during either player's turn, when a spell or card or effect is activated on the field, meaning like it has a spell effect essentially, so like pendulum effects, if they're in the pendulum zone, or field spell effects, he can negate them once per turn. And then you get to attach that card to this card as Xyz material, so instead of destroying it, it just keeps adding things on, so that's really cool. Also, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card and change the attack to this card and perform damage calculation. The fact that it's 3,000 attack is absolutely ridiculous. And if a face of Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 face of Xyz monster you control. It gains attack equal to 1 of those destroyed monsters' original attack, including itself. So that could be a big problem to deal with in a lot of decks, for a lot of decks in general. And the fact that this guy is actually a generic level 8 is very scary to deal with. The next card, Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder. Pretty decent effect up to twice per turn during your main phase 1. You can detach an Xyz material from this card and then target a special summon monster your opponent controls and destroy it. It's decent, but that's not the reason why that it really has that effect. He's in the deck anyway. He has it in there for Pain Gainer. Pain Gainer, you can summon him by Xyz summoning over a rank 8, 9, or 10 Dark Xyz monster you control with 2 or more Xyz materials as the Xyz material. And then this card gains defense equal to the combined ranks of all Xyz materials you control times 200. And while this card has Xyz material, each time your opponent activates a spell or trap card, inflict 600 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, destroy all face-up monster your opponent controls with defense less than or equal to this card's, which can be pretty useful every once in a while. Defenses are actually pretty easy to deal with. So in the case that he can wipe the board, that's pretty good. It's also another big reason why it's there is number 77, the 7 Sins. You can Xyz summon this card by using a rank 10 or 11. Pain Gainer's rank 11. And 7 Sins, if you summon that way, the following effect can't be activated this turn, but you can detach 2 Xyz materials from this card, banish as many special summon monsters your opponent controls as possible, which is non-targeting, then attach one of those banished monsters to this card as an Xyz material. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card instead. So, if you are not disrupted, in summoning out Pain Gainer, because this is really the card that they'll want to hit, either that or Giant Grinder, before they get to 7 Sins, because once 7 Sins hits the field, it's very, very hard to get rid of him. They have to hit one of these guys, otherwise 7 Sins is just not going anywhere. And this card is fantastic against Cosmos, especially because if they have already used their one of their Dark Destroyers, you can get this guy out, banish everything, and attach one of the Dark Destroyers to 7 Sins as material, and then they won't get it back, which is really, really good. Going back to these guys, Psyframe Lord Omega and Stardust Dragon, you can get them out. It's on the more difficult side. Specifically, you can get it out through using an artifact monster and Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. You can summon them out through Call the Haunted and Artifact Sanctum in the case that they're in grave. Like, if he's already used the Ghost Ogre and he sets a Call the Haunted and then he activates it on the next turn, he can get one of these guys out. Primarily, most of the time, I definitely feel like he'll go for Stardust Dragon more often, just because he also plays the Borg in the side deck, which, in the case that he has to play it, like, for example, in a mirror match or something like that, he can send the 3 Omegas to the graveyard, and then just shuffle them back into the extra deck and shuffle any 3 cards from his graveyard back into this deck, which is very, very useful. Double Vanity's Fiend. It's not searchable, but it's still pretty good. 1 Domain of the True Monarchs. He doesn't really need to main deck this card as much as usual Monarch builds go, simply because he is main decking Double Scythe. So right there, that's pretty good nonetheless. For hand traps, double Droll and Lockbird, double Artifact Lancia, double Effect Veiler, and double Speedward Menko. He can use Speedward Menko as tribute fodder on the turn, on the next turn. So that's pretty useful. And then he also plays three Xyz Universe, which this is more or less just to deal with decks that like to rank 5. Or like, for example, he can possibly deal with the big Super Quantal guy with this card as well. I believe the Super Quantal guy is a rank 12, and he can get out Pain Gainer through that. And typically, like, if they're playing the deck like super, super well, and they get out both the Super Quantal guys, they can easily get out Pain Gainer because of it. So that's just really, really useful for that. So thank you guys for watching this deck profile. Once again, thank you, Eddie, for letting me use your deck on my channel and let me show it to the world once again. And as always, guys, have a nice day.